Good morning, everyone. Bianca here from my Workspace and VA Bootcamp. Excited to be coming to you live again for Technophobe No More. Today is day 3, and the theme for today is Chit Chat. And today is all about the different ways that you can communicate with your clients. So I'll be going through a bunch of the chat platforms and how they work and what the differences are between different platforms. And I will also be looking at social media today. So we'll be looking into how to use different social media platforms, what makes them unique. And I'll be answering all of your questions today. So thank you, everyone, for particularly those of us joining on the live session in AirMeet. And just a reminder that if you are here on the live, you can use the Q&A tab in order to put your questions through to me, and I will answer them before the end of the call. If you are watching us live on Facebook or you are watching any of the replays, please feel free to put your comments and your questions into the comments, and we'll be answering as soon as we can. So so today we're going to talk about communication, basically, is what it comes down to, and the various different worlds of communication. Personally, I feel it's one of the most important skills that a virtual assistant or, any sort of online business at all really can master, and that is making sure that you are able to communicate in a way that is useful and clear, and that you make sure that you are open in your communication. I think it's one of the hardest things to truly accomplish in a business, because often communication, it feels difficult to say hard things or to tell people that you've done something wrong or something like that. But often the quickest and easiest way to sort out a problem is to make everyone aware of it as quickly as possible. So today is all about Chit Chat, and let's move on to chat apps. So obviously, thanks to 2020, a lot of people are a lot more aware of the various chat platforms that are out there and the various options. We use quite a few within our own business. So the one that most people are sort of really familiar with is WhatsApp. It's probably the most well-known and the most widely sort of recognized chat app. It's got a few different, it's got a few features that are quite limiting. And so we've seen quite a rise in the other platforms that are out there. So WhatsApp, firstly, is owned by by Meta, of which Facebook is one of their products. There was a lot of hoo-ha just over a year ago now, of people going, oh, WhatsApp's going to advertise to us. But I think one of the key things that people need to remember is that any free platform, you are the product. And so chances are they're going to use that product to market to you in some way or another. So I think it's very useful to just understand that when you go into using any of these platforms, most of which are free, that you're going to have advertising, and you're going to have, likely to have your information used to market to you in some way or another. So just something to keep in mind. Some of the things with WhatsApp, I believe it has improved, but I haven't been using it myself. But when I started out with my business, I had internet issues. My laptop would stay connected perfectly fine, but my phone would lose internet connection. And WhatsApp on desktop wouldn't stay connected if my phone wasn't connected to the exact same Wi-Fi. So as soon as my phone lost connection, I would lose connection on the desktop. And it would not update, and I wouldn't know that there were messages. So at the time, I started looking around for other platforms. The other thing with WhatsApp is that you can only share your information by sharing your phone number. And that applies to a couple of the other apps as well. But I was looking for a way to be able to share my contact information. I wanted to be, I liked the aspect of being able to chat in real time to my clients, but I didn't necessarily want to share. I didn't necessarily want to share my information, my phone number, with clients so that they could access me at all times. So I did some research and we discovered Telegram. And I know there was a huge uptick in Telegram users after WhatsApp announced that they were officially going to be advertising to you. But there was also, thanks to the riots in Durban in July last year, there was another huge uptick in Telegram users, because one of the features that Telegram has that WhatsApp doesn't is that their groups can be up to 200,000 people. You can set channels where only admins can broadcast information to people, which was really useful, particularly during the riots. But there are a lot of platforms and a lot of places that people have used that. So we use Telegram in our business. It's one of my favorite apps. One of the key things that you can do with Telegram, which you can't really do with any of the other chat apps, is that you can share your contact information. You can share a unique link to your profile without sharing your phone number. So once you sign up, you need a phone number to sign up, because you need to get an SMS on your phone to receive, to sort of authenticate yourself. But then you can set up a user account and you can use your username to share your contact details with everyone, which is a really nice feature. It means that I can be in one-on-one contact with clients and they don't necessarily have my phone number. Most of my clients don't have my phone number. They do have me on Telegram. They could phone me on Telegram, but I can then control my access via Telegram as well. So that's quite a nice option. It's has a lot of features like disappearing messages and secure chats. You can also set up all kinds of things. And apparently it's got one of the best animated emoji sticker sets of any of the chat platforms, if you really cared about that. But we like them, but that's not really a major selling point as to using Telegram. One of the key things that we find very useful with Telegram is that you can create much larger group chats. So they're great for community groups where you often run out of the 200 people that live in a community or something like that, and you need to set up bigger chat groups. The other thing that I love about Telegram is it works completely independently on your different devices. So it connects to the internet on its own. I can leave my phone off and on charge somewhere else in the house, and I can still use Telegram on my computer. It works, so it works brilliantly during load shedding. When my phone dies, I can still get stuff on my laptop if I've connected to someone else's phone or something like that. So really useful. You don't have to stay connected to the same internet in order for it to update on your different devices. So I really like Telegram. I use it quite a lot. Then we've got Facebook Messenger. Again, and I'll come into this when we talk about social media as well, very much linked to Facebook. Again, you can chat with people without them having your phone number. So that's a benefit, but it is within the sort of metaverse. And you are tied to having a profile on Facebook. And so I find it not a great platform. It's great for sharing things on Facebook and that sort of stuff, but I don't necessarily find it a great business tool, because it's very much tied to the metaverse, and you have to be a member in order to be able to use Facebook Messenger. Whereas Telegram, you don't have to necessarily have a profile on a social media platform in order to use it or anything like that. I've got Skype and Teams there, although Teams is pretty much taken over from Skype. Skype was the Microsoft platform. It's the sort of video call and chat platform that kind of probably predates WhatsApp, if we think about it. I'm pretty sure I was Skyping long before I was WhatsApping. But Microsoft Teams has now taken that over. Again, like we talked about in the email, if you are in the Microsoft verse, then you probably are using Teams. And again, it's a chat platform as well as the opportunity to have video calls. I realize there's a couple that we don't have on here, which I'll need to add for the next intake. But when we talk about video platforms, then we need to also talk about Zoom, obviously, which is mainly used for meetings or group meetings. Zoom is becoming more and more sophisticated. So you've got things like breakout rooms. There are ways to link Zoom to conference centers so that some people are on video feed and some people are in the room, and it all kind of works together. And then there's also Google Chat and Google Meet being the video platform within Google. When it comes to Teams, Google Meet, and Zoom, Zoom tends to be the leader in the quality of the video and the quality, the stability of the connections. Teams, we've had a few people come on a Zoom call when they've been using Teams for everything else, and we're very impressed with the quality on a Zoom call versus Teams. Again, if you're in a company where the data is hosted is important to you, then Microsoft does become a better choice over Google, or over Zoom, interestingly as well. Google Meet, I've not been terribly impressed with. It's come sort of late to the party. Google Meet has come a bit late to the party, and it's a little bit clunky. I find it a little bit more difficult to use. Lots of weird glitches. But it does work, and it's a very viable platform because it's built into the Google Suite. It is easy if you're already in Google. Google Chat is built into your Gmail platform as well, so you can chat directly within the Google the screen in your browser. Again, not something that we use terribly much. We've just found the Telegram seems to work better. I like compartmentalizing, so having things in different apps in order to compartmentalize what I'm doing. So I tend to prefer that to having things popping up in a browser that I'm busy working in. Just my personal experience. So before I go into the others, I just see Ursula's got a question. What streaming platforms? So what streaming platforms could we use for those remote sessions during lockdown so that the company can watch an event from home? So here, it's entirely up to you. Zoom is probably the most popular one. You could do that with Google Meet. And Microsoft Teams. I know companies have used all three of those platforms. If you are just wanting people to watch and you're not wanting to have to manage muting people and those sorts of things, you don't need people to actually interact. You could look at sort of some of the webinar software that's out there. AirMeet is a platform that we've been using for about 1.5 years now. And as you can see, provides you with the option to have chat, but the attendees on the session can't really come on and chat. So you're not having to deal with sort of muting people or turning videos off and those sorts of things. But it really just depends on what the event is and what you're wanting to show. So we've hosted conferences on AirMeet where we've had upwards of 300 people in an event with, I think that particular event that we hosted last year was 35 speakers as well as facilitators. So it was quite quite a complex and interesting conference, and there is the ability to do that within AirMeet. Otherwise, generally, if it's less than 100 people, I probably feel a little more comfortable in Zoom, just because we've had a lot more experience with that. But in the year ending March 2021, my team and I had hosted 14,000 people on Zoom. So we have a lot of experience on Zoom. But I hope that sort of helps to answer that particular question. So yeah, then the last few there are starting to become more and more familiar. So the one in the middle is Signal, and that's sort of a competitor to WhatsApp and Telegram. Their claim is that they are much more secure. They do a lot more end-to-end encryption, and that the information that you're sharing is not listened to or watched or anything like that. Again, it's a free platform, so chances are they are marketing either to you or using your information for marketing purposes elsewhere. But that is the one thing that people do prefer Signal to over Telegram or WhatsApp. For me, I'm very much aware of the fact that I am using a free platform and that it's likely they're going to use me for marketing. It is what it is. Slack is more of again, also a chat platform. They've now just recently added what they call huddles, where you can do kind of group voice chats, which are quite helpful. But Slack, what's interesting with Slack is you can open the single app, and you can be logged into multiple different business Slack channels. So it's quite handy. It's a very popular platform internationally, particularly in the tech space. So if that is an area that you're sort of getting into, it's a nice way for businesses to communicate with their followers. Again, you can have channels, you can have different channels, you can restrict some and make others public. You can, again, emojis. What's interesting with Slack, which can get a little bit confusing, is you can reply to comments in thread. So it can sometimes get a little confusing to find information in a Slack channel. If people have replied and had a whole conversation in a reply, it doesn't necessarily show in the whole feed. But I'm in a number of Slack channels for clients, as well as some of the apps that we use have a developer Slack channel that I follow, and I can ask questions then directly of the developers and those sorts of things. So Slack is quite a powerful sort of chat platform. And then Voxer is really good for those clients that prefer to voice note things. It's advertised as a walkie-talkie app. So the idea is that Voxer, that you send voice notes backwards and forwards on Voxer. You can also find people on Voxer by username, which is quite useful, kind of similar to Telegram. And a lot of people do use it just like WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal or something like that. Again, it's got an app for the phone but does not have a desktop app. So on your desktop, you would use it within the browser. So those are just some of the chat apps that are out there. I don't know if there are any others that anybody uses, if they would like to add them to the comments or anything like that. Those are the main ones that are out there. I will add logos for Zoom and Google Meet into this as well. So then moving on to social media, this isn't a full social media training course, so I'm not going to go hugely into social media. What I'm really just wanting to chat about is kind of what are the platforms that are out there and how best to kind of think of them and how to find your clients in these spaces. Because basically what marketing is communication. And we do a lot of that communication through social media. We do a lot of our marketing through social media. It's a fantastic place to market, particularly if you're wanting to market for free. And so it's just really important to kind of have an idea of how these all fit together and what kind of marketing and what kind of things work best for different platforms. So the one that most people are probably most familiar with is Facebook. It's a long-running platform. It's like 14 or 15 years now that the majority of people have been on Facebook. Lots of groups, lots of pages, lots of profiles. And I like to sort of explain it a little bit like a mall. If you think of Facebook as a mall, and the people walking around in the mall are the profiles. Then there are pages, which are the storefronts. You can't control who sees your page. You can't control who interacts with your page. But it is selling your business. And there's normally a person who is running the shop. So that is a profile on Facebook that is involved with that page. Then there are groups, which are sort of invitation only, or sometimes they are sort of public groups that you can go and join. And groups are basically what I sort of refer to as like the back office, or those sort of conference halls, or those halls of some sort in the malls where you're invited in. Somebody is sort of running the meeting, the admins, but it's an opportunity to interact directly with people. But then also, if you think about the mall, there are people there for all sorts of different reasons. So some people have come to the mall to shop. Some people have come to the mall to meet friends. Some people have come to the mall to pick up their photographs. Some people have come to the mall to window shop and to just look around and see what's out there. There's probably people at the mall who are doing market research. There's people at the mall who are standing around getting donations for their charity. There's people at the mall who are doing surveys about random stuff. And so you need to just sort of remember that there's a lot going on in a mall, and it's quite difficult to get traction. And so the ways that we get traction, if you were to have a shop in a mall, is you would put up advertising, or you would ask your customers to recommend you. And that's exactly what we do, what we tend to do on Facebook. We have advertising, which we put up in various places in the mall that point people to our page or wherever. Or we ask our customers to bring their friends. And so it's kind of pretty much the same. If you think about Facebook as a mall, it just sort of makes a lot more sense. Then we've got Instagram, which is a far more visual platform, not as much about interactions with people. If you think about Facebook being very profile to profile related, or profile to page, or profiles in groups, Instagram tends to be more about interacting with the visuals that you see. They're promoting a lot more video. And so, yes, you get connected and you comment and those sorts of things, but it's generally based around the visual. Instagram is very visual, either photographs or now moving more and more into video. And it's a lot more interaction. And it's about discovering content that is interesting to you. And generally from a sort of visual perspective. So the focus is much more on Instagram on being visually appealing. Pinterest, if you think about it, is a platform that sort of lives forever. And it's really interesting if a lot of us as moms have used a lot of Pinterest to go and find ideas for birthday cakes or outfits for dress-up parties and those sorts of things. But often what happens is when you look at the blog post that you click through to on Pinterest, it's often 5 or 10 years old. During lockdown, my son wanted a 3D dinosaur birthday cake. First place I went was to Pinterest. I ended up clicking on the blog post, getting the step-by-step instructions on which shape cakes to bake, how to cut them, how to arrange them, how to ice them. We had a beautiful Triceratops cake. And then I just sort of clicked through to another post of hers and realized that post had been for her son's 4th birthday, and he just turned 15 when I went to her latest blog post. So I was still following blog posts that she'd put up 11 years ago. So Pinterest sort of lives forever, and it's really useful to think about that when you're putting content onto Pinterest, that it needs to be content that people can use 10 years from now. There's no use in putting a lot of promotion on Pinterest for a session that's running once, or you want to be promoting content that can sort of live forever or almost forever onto Pinterest. LinkedIn is very much business oriented. So if you think about LinkedIn as a conference venue, there's, again, similarly to Facebook, lots of profiles, people interacting with people. LinkedIn is very much people oriented. There are groups and there are pages, but in this sense, your page is basically like your booth at a big trade conference. People can come, find out information about you, possibly interact with you, but they're really just coming to grab your flyer and go on to the next place and have a look. If they stop and have a conversation, it's about building a business relationship. Everything on LinkedIn is very much business focused. So you want to make sure that you are using your networks there to grow your business connections, particularly if you are focused on working with clients who are in more of a corporate or business-based arena. You're likely to find a lot more clients in LinkedIn, and that might be the platform that you want to focus on. Twitter is very much short and sharp, quite an opinionated platform. A lot of conversations happen around things that are controversial one way or another. And again, it's about building up followings, very much individuals reacting to each other, having sort of discussions, those sorts of things. It's not a platform. I know a lot of people that do business on Twitter, but it's a very specific niche, and you need to kind of know that your audience is hanging out there, and it needs to be a platform that you feel comfortable in. A random tweet now and then is not necessarily going to bring you a lot of business. So it's important to kind of focus on where your audience is when it comes to these social media platforms. Clubhouse is an audio person-to-person platform. Well, it's sort of more of a kind of one-to-many platform. Gives you the opportunity to, it's probably a platform that's really good for testing ideas and becoming known for speaking or teaching and those sorts of things, because it's an audio platform. It's not a platform I've got to know really well. It's always just felt a little bit off. But if this is a platform that you have experience with, I would love to know how you use it and how it works for you. TikTok is growing and becoming more and more popular. WAM Workspace has just gotten our first TikTok channel. I think we've posted 2 videos. But yeah, TikTok is short, punchy videos. It's proving really good for a lot of businesses in gaining following. It's, again, very social. It's people to people. It's following challenges, following hashtags, those sorts of things. All video. So you really have to focus on sort of being in front of people. And then Snapchat, I honestly can't tell you anything about. I don't know exactly how it works as a social media platform, but it's there because it is one of the platforms, although I think it is slowly but surely moving away. So at least I'm honest. I don't think I even have a Snapchat profile. But I think one of the key things to remember with social media is that you want to be in the social media platform where your ideal audience is. And it's important that you identify who your ideal audience is, who it is that you want to work with, and where they hang out. And then that is the platform that you should focus on. When it comes to communication and marketing, you want to focus that on the areas that bring you the best return on investment. So you don't necessarily want to be using every single platform that is available on social media. I often suggest to people, if you think that it's likely that you'll get clients from a platform, then it might be worthwhile setting up your profile, setting up a business page if that's an option in that area, getting everything set up, and then focusing on the platform where you get your most information, so that you are present across platforms, but that they can find you where you are most active. So having those platforms set up, having a link to your website, and ultimately that is the key thing. With all social media, you should be sending clients to your home on the internet, and your home on the internet should be a self-owned website. It should be a place where anyone can access that information. Because remember, in order to access information on Facebook, you have to have a Facebook profile. In order to access information on LinkedIn, you have to have a LinkedIn profile. You can see some Instagram and some Twitter posts, depending on the settings. But again, if you want to interact on any of those platforms, or you want to start building relationships, you have to have a profile. Pinterest is the one that's kind of open, and you don't have to actually have a Pinterest profile in order to scroll through Pinterest and click on links and those sorts of things. But just keep in mind that if everything that you do is within one of these platforms, that you could be excluding people that don't have a profile on that platform. We tend to just assume that because we have profiles on everything, that other people do, but not everyone wants to sign up to every single social media. There are a number of people that do quite large digital detoxes, and then they'll go off certain platforms, or they'll turn off certain platforms for a certain period of time. And so you then lose out on those clients being seeing what you're offering and those sorts of things. So you want to be bringing a lot of, you want to be directing the people from social media to your own website. And also, if you think about, we had those two really big outages of Facebook and Instagram where there was a big hacking problem and everything shut down. And there were numerous businesses going, but I can't talk to my clients for 2 days or 24 hours or whatever it is. What happens if something catastrophic happens and it's down permanently? Have you now lost your entire audience? So you need to make sure that you're bringing your audience to somewhere that you actually have control of that content. And so use social media to get people to your home on the internet is always what I think is important. So just under Chit Chat and communication, I just thought to mention some of the stock photo sites. There are a number of places that you can get photographs for free as well as for paid. There are loads of paid options that are out there, but I thought it's useful to kind of chat about some of the free options or the more affordable options that are out there. And the reason I want to talk about stock photos under communication and chat is that often in our marketing, we need images. And we don't necessarily always want to include a photograph of ourselves. And it's important to make sure that the images that you use, you're actually allowed to use in your marketing and those sorts of things. So Pixels and Unsplash and Pixabay are 3 online stock photo websites. They all allow you to use the images in a variety of places. Usually you can use them in your marketing, no problem. if you are wanting to sell anything that has those images on, they each have different requirements of what is required of you in order to be able to use those images on merchandise, things that you're actually selling. Usually it requires a certain amount of changes, or it requires that you pay in order to be able to use those images. So it is just important to keep that in mind. Googling images and using those images on your website can land you in quite a lot of hot water, because although images are available on the internet, that does not necessarily mean that they are copyright free and you can copy them and use them anywhere else. For example, we had a photographer who came and spoke to us at KZN Women in Business in 2020, and he took the famous photograph of Nelson Mandela that's on the cover of Long Walk to Freedom, the black and white sort of full front-on photograph. Now, that photograph is available if you Google Nelson Mandela, and a lot of people love it. It's a beautiful photo, but Matthew Willman, who's the photographer, charges 10,000 Rand per use of that photo. So if he comes across, he has a copyright firm, and if they come across you using that image, you are sent an invoice for 10,000 Rand for using that image on your website without permission, because it's obviously a very famous image. He is a paid photographer, and that image has copyright restrictions. So it's really important to make sure that you're using images from places that are legitimately allowed to sell you that image. Whether it's sell you the image for free or whether it's a paid sort of image source. Then you've got, I've just mentioned Heartstock, because that's a really popular one with a lot of our clients, quite feminine kind of themes. They do quite a lot of quite nice backgrounds, and you can go in and purchase a set of images which are in a similar color theme, which will include things like background images as well as kind of images in that same sort of color scheme and same sort of feel that you can use on your website or in your marketing, so that you get a similar kind of sense of brand and those sorts of things. I really love the photographs on Death to Stock Photo, which is quite an amusing name for a stock photography site. But what they do is you need to subscribe to them. They release a few photographs every month for free on their subscription. If you just subscribe to their newsletter. But if you are on their paid subscription, you get a set of, I think it's 25 to 35 images every month, and it's all along a theme. And it's the whole point of their sets of images is that they are very, they're kind of anti-generic stock photos. So they tend to have quite interesting themes. They tend to use more interesting people in the photographs. So they really are quite fun. It's a website that's well worth going and having a look at if you're interested. And then Deposit Photos is a great website for not only photographs, but icons, PNGs. They offer a whole variety of sort of elements that you can use. Their search function is really good. And so you've got some sort of really nice options from Deposit Photos, but again, you would pay per item that you purchased. And when you purchase the item, it gives you the option of purchasing the correct license that you need for that particular item. So just some sort of things to keep in mind there. And then the next one was just to kind of chat through some of the image editing platforms that are out there. Canva is probably the one that's the most well known. You do also have options that are built into Facebook, Pinterest, and there's a platform Tailwind, where you can actually create images within those platforms for posting on those platforms. Canva is most well known. They have a free tier. It's wonderful, very user-friendly. I'd say it's probably the most widely used one in South Africa. Internationally, there's a bit of competition from Stencil, which is a similar platform to Canva. Also allows you to, what's nice with both Canva and Stencils, they have built-in stock photography libraries. And so you have the option to search within the platform rather than having to go into the stock photo library to find an image and then bring it into the platform. Relay that is one that we use now and again for clients. It's quite a nice option in that you can bring in your images and your colors, and then you can automatically generate multiple variations based on those colors and images for various sizes. So it's a very quick way to do a big branding set. So you can create kind of the Facebook cover and Facebook posts. And so 3 variations of Facebook posts, 3 variations of Instagram posts, stories, all of that, all pretty much with the click of a button. So it's quite a powerful tool. It is a paid platform, but it's one worth mentioning because if it's something that you do quite a lot of, it's worth having a look at Relay That. Again, just remember, you can't just use any image that you find on the internet. Same thing when it comes to fonts and those sorts of things. Generally, what's built into things like Canva or Stencil is options that you can use for free. And so it's worth checking out what the rules are in the terms and conditions on these platforms. Are there any more questions about anything to do with communication with clients or within your business or anything like that? Because I think the next one is talking about tomorrow, which we will be doing tick done, and we'll be talking about task management, the various platforms that are out there to help with task management, and everything to do with. We'll talk a little bit about time management, but mainly we'll be talking task management and those sorts of things. So any more questions to do with social media, communication with clients, marketing, etc.? I'll give it a minute or two. Just before we wrap up, I am going to mention that we are opening the sales for VA Bootcamp, which is our 12-week virtual assistants training course, where we will be offering training to virtual assistants in South Africa, particularly specializing in reaching out to international clients. We'll be covering a lot of the information that we cover in Technophobe No More in much more detail, as well as going into various mindset aspects and technical setup of your business and those sorts of things for a VA business in South Africa. If you're at all interested, you can see more information on our website at vabootcamp.co.za. Otherwise, if you would like to reach out to me or anyone else in the VA Bootcamp team, you are welcome to reach out and ask any questions about the course. The course starts on the 4th of February, and we will meet once a week for a live Q&A session on the topic of that week. And it's a 12-week course where we will offer really detailed guidance, everything that I've learned in the last 4.5 years working as a virtual assistant, and particularly working mainly with international clients and earning US dollars. So if you're a South African virtual assistant and you are looking to start earning dollars, this is definitely the course for you. We will give you a lot of the basics, and it may be stuff that you know already. But the one thing that I've learned over the last 4 years is that every course that I take, even if I know the information, I always learn something from it. And we hope that those of you that do join us will enjoy learning with us and growing your business. So thanks, everyone. Have an amazing hump day, And we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for Technophobe No More. And tomorrow we are talking tick, tick, done, task managers. Thanks, ladies. Have a good one.